it's great to see you and catch up. We haven't seen one another in person for a long time due to the COVID lockdown. It's great to actually come out and go for a walk around the city of Cambridge, which is where we both live. You're on the south of the river, I'm here on the north side of the river, and we're going to go exploring the hidden heritage of the neighbourhood where I live.
Well, it's really good to see you, Clem. It's been several weeks of enforced lockdown and therefore not being able to see each other. But it's good. But it's lovely to be out here. And as you mentioned, being here at this time on Castle Hill is very interesting in terms of we're here at a time, at the first time in over 2,000 years that the governments of Cambridge is leaving this place. Now, if you'll come and see the colleges, and that would be the history that you would find out in Cambridge. But as you say, during the lockdown, we've been just finding things to entertain ourselves and walking around and finding the hidden history of towns like Cambridge. And I've discovered all sorts of things that I didn't know about Cambridge, which have nothing to do with the university whatsoever. And as with our walks today, although the university will pop into it, there's all sorts of histories that we discover here from Castle Hill that are hidden.
Yep, so we're here up on one of the few hills in Cambridge, and why is it here? How did it come to be here?
Well, so people have lived in this area for over 2,000 years, probably longer than that. And in fact, you mentioned the north and south. So originally, where we are here at Castle Hill, Shire Hall, is one of the Iron Age centres of the city, a ritual and trade centre. But actually, the other big Iron Age centre in the city was south of the river, over by Addenbrooke's and the hospital. So there was that north-south divide, I suppose, even then. But this is the most important place in the city, and this is where the town builds up from. And so after the Romans come here and they conquer the country, the Romans think this is an important enough place to build a fort here, and that fort goes into a small Roman town. And then after the Romans leave, the Saxons occupy here, and this is where they have their town. And then William the Conqueror orders, you say a hill, well, the artificial mound that we're standing on, the Castle Motte, he orders a castle built here to continue his control of the country, and that's why we're up on this high vantage point, a rare thing for Cambridge.
So you say that there was a castle here. I don't see any evidence of there being a castle up here on the mound. Where did it go?
You and I have both been here for so many years in Cambridge, and I too also thought Cambridge doesn't have a proper castle. It's just got a motte and a Norman Motte and Bailey castle. Couldn't be further from the truth. And so what you have up here was actually in the 13th century, Edward I, when he was doing his castle building around the country, he ordered this castle to be repaired and built, and we had a proper stone-built Edwardian castle, like the sort of ones you see in Wales.
So that was here then. Where has it gone now?
Well, this is the question. And in fact, I mentioned the colleges about this. The stone here is really vital. It's a rare resource. There's no natural stone in Cambridge, sir. And so the Roman walls and the walls of the castle and the buildings of the castle, they were all basically torn down and taken to build mostly all the colleges that you see here and the churches here. And that's why all the stone here is gone. And now there's no evidence whatsoever.
So it was all up here and it's now all on the skyline that we see around us now.
Well, absolutely. And the final point about being up here is to mention the names that we have for Cambridge. And so it's all to do with, in fact, the north-south divide that you mentioned, the river that we see, the River Cam. So the Romans come here and it's called Dura La Pont, which comes from the Antonine itineraries. And that means literally the bridge over the boggy river. The Saxons then come here and they call it Grantabrig, the bridge over the Granta. And then obviously
where Cambridge comes from, Granta
exactly.
Bridge.
The Cam Bridge, we call it the Cam. It's also the Granta, the river, the bridge over the river. So this is the namings of this town. And actually, to be honest, the archaeology and history of the whole of Cambridgeshire is actually based around waters and rivers and our relationship with it. And Cambridge is no exception.
So Steve, we've come down from the Mound to here in front of Shire Hall. And we were last talking about the castle being here. What's happened between the Norman castle and what we see here today?
Well, after the castle fell into disrepair, and then as we talked about the colleges taking the stone, is still an important strategic location. And so in the English Civil War, and we say English, actually the English Civil War starts and finishes in Scotland, so we claim some ownership to it too. This place was fortified as an artillery battery, a gun emplacement. Cambridge was an important location during the English Civil War. And so that function continued up here, and there's earthworks for the Civil War as you wander around the back of Shire Hall. But actually, and if you are lucky on a hot and dry day and you're up the top of Castle Hill and you look at this flat bit of ground behind me, you will see the outline of a building that stood here once. And in the 19th century, there was a very important jail built here. And this was how justice in Cambridge was meted out. Prisoners were kept here. And in fact, actually the castle was also the local jail as well. So it continues that function from the medieval period. So all these buildings, again, a hidden missing heritage of Cambridge, are here, although not visible to sight, before you then see the local governance of Shire Hall behind us, which in itself now has stopped to be. And who knows, in a few thousand years, archaeologists may be digging up Shire Hall and wondering how they can piece together local government in Cambridgeshire.
So we've walked along Shelley Row. Where are we headed to next?
Well, actually, funnily, we were saying about hidden histories of Cambridge. Shelley Row has got its own remarkable story, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But we're going to go around here, I'll mention that, and then we're going to have a look at Mount Pleasant. And I'm sure as you drive around Cambridge, you've gone down this road many times.
Yeah. Steve, we've descended from Castle Mound onto Mount Pleasant. Are we in the right area for the Roman fort that you were talking about earlier?
Well, yes. So the Roman town was built around the fort, and one of the key things that confuses archaeologists as the town develops is why in the 4th century was Cambridge fortified, probably because of the Saxons. And this high bank that we're stood on here, going around Mount Pleasant, that if you drive around this busy road, you go around it all the time, you won't realise that this is the line of where the Roman walls of the fort and then the Roman town were. And it sort of creates this high bank, hidden and unknown if you didn't know the history of the Roman settlement on top of Castle Hill.
We passed Shelley Row earlier, and you said you had a bit of a story to tell about that.
Well, absolutely. In fact, Shelley Row maybe even gets its name from the amazing subterranean Roman temple shrine that sits beneath Shelley Row. Now, when the archaeologists excavated there, they found a great burnt building, thousands of sherds of pottery, wine bottle remains, chains, dog burials, and all some sort of maybe bacchanalian rite, and something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. Unbelievable. And then nearby to there's 13 child burials in shafts, again with dogs, possibly to do with Cerberus and the underworld, because under Roman law you weren't allowed to bury anything other than children within the town walls of any city. So we have all that underneath Shelley Row, and one of the stories about why Shelley Row is called Shelley Row is it's possible that all the shells that were in the Roman temple is what gave it its name and why it's there, but I can't prove that.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. I didn't know any of that before coming along here today. Where are we headed to next?
Well, as we're saying about this hidden history of Cambridge, and we're going to sort of not talk about the colleges. Mostly what we're going to talk about is actually the Romans. The Roman fort that was here guarded the crossing of two major Roman roads, the Via Divana on its way to Huntingdon and to the north, and Akeman Street, which is what we're going to be following, which heads out and runs east to west across the country and runs east out of Cambridge, heading towards Ely.
So we're heading north out of the sort of centre of Cambridge now. Where are we headed?
Well, we just walked across Histon Road, and that is the Via Divana, which would have been the Roman road that ran north out of Cambridge going towards, or north and west going towards Huntingdon. But the Roman fort in the town that we've talked about sat at the crossroads of Roman roads, and it was there to guard them and to move trade across the area. And the other one that we're going to follow for a lot of the rest of our walk today is the one that ran north and east, I suppose, heading out along what is now Stretton Avenue, Akeman Street, as that heads towards Ely.
So it went out towards Ely. Where did it go beyond there?
Well, so that Roman road went to Ely, and then actually ultimately to Lancaster and to the fort that is there actually, and over into the North Sea. And we mentioned about Roman roads and sort of, you know, they were sort of one of the sort of most famous things that you get in Roman archaeology. They're sort of synonymous with them. And the Roman roads that we have here, sadly, we're not going to be able to see a bit of preserved Roman road that's sitting out here. Even the bits that run beyond the city that go through the countryside, sadly, you won't see too much of it today. But they sit beneath the modern roads that we see here now. Now, I think you were to go back a few thousand years and speak to the engineers, they'd probably be quite pleased that what they built all those years before is still being used today for the same purpose that they constructed it. But a Roman road doesn't have tarmac, it's not built like we see these today. They would have been using the local materials, there'd have been a bank, and what's called an agger, this sort of raised centre to the road of layers of soil and gravel and soil to drain it off, with ditches on either side to drain away, you know, the excess water, collect rubbish and such like. Higher status roads would maybe have flagstone paving and such like. You don't get a local stone here. The story of the castle disappearing, they're never going to put that onto a road. So this would have been gravel surface roads that now sit beneath our modern roads today.
Sounds better made than some of our roads.
Well, some of them did last for thousands of years.
Absolutely. Now, I thought I recognised the name Akeman Street. That's the name of the Roman road we're following, but here we are in front of a sign for a road going in the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, here we are, we follow Stretton Avenue. Stretton Avenue follows what we call Akeman Street, the Roman road that runs out of Cambridge. But our sign actually is almost pointing in the right direction. But yes, it's on when the street planners were given the names here, they kind of put it at a right angle. But no, Akeman Street is the name of the Roman road that we call the one that runs out of Cambridge. Obviously, this is a name it's not what the Romans called it. It's an antiquarian name that was given to it. But it is a significant Roman road, and so it runs right across the country. It connects Watling Street, which is probably a name you've heard before, over Verulamium, which is modern-day St Albans. It connects the Fossway to Cirencester, runs through into Cambridge, past Wimpole, which is the big National Trust property that we know so well. Then runs through the centre of Cambridge, and then heading north and west, it heads out towards Ely, through Denver, now along the modern A10. So that's probably what most people in this area will recognise. So if you're on that road, invariably in some sort of traffic jam, you're actually on the Roman road of Akeman Street, and that runs through Denver into Norfolk and on to Lancaster. And that Roman road is basically now sits beneath modern roads across the entire country. So here we are, carrying on following the route of Akeman Street along what is at the moment called Carlton Way. But as we go past the Arbury Primary School, we actually ran an excavation with the pupils here as part of the Jigsaw project in 2014.
Oh really? Oh, that's so nice. I think it's really great when we get the opportunities to involve members of the community and particularly sort of school-age students in doing archaeology and getting hands-on with it themselves. I know that where we are here in Arbury, we're actually really close to Arbury Court, and there's a sign there about actually the Roman archaeology of the area. So it is actually sort of well known amongst sort of local residents, and take pride in it.
And that is good because it allows, you know, there's the road, there's the sort of famous archaeology of Cambridge, but actually it's all over the place, and this is just a great chance to actually have pupils hold it for themselves.
We've walked quite a way through North Cambridge, through the neighbourhood of Arbury, and we're now outside the Hedges primary school. Looking around this area, you wouldn't think that there was very much history, archaeology to be found around here. Why are we here?
Well, continuing the theme of our walk today, we've gone from the Roman town along the Roman road. We've talked about the fort at Castle Hill, and I suppose if you're going to go for the sort of the triumvirate of famous Roman archaeology, we've talked about Roman forts, Roman roads, and here actually we're on the site of a Roman villa.
Really, here? There was a Roman villa?
Absolutely, exactly. So underneath the school here, known as far back as the 1960s, as a result of the construction of the schools and also some of the houses around here, we have a Roman villa. So it was known about in the 60s, it's been dug in piecemeal at various times through there. Oxford Archaeology East ourselves, we did an excavation here in around about 2005 as part of the school extension works that you can sort of see behind the main buildings here. But also there's been earlier works by other archaeological organisations back in the 90s as well. But we still only have a small picture of what was this villa, and as we say, we're in Arbury now within Cambridge. Of course, in the Roman times this would have been into the countryside, a long way away from the Roman town, much smaller than it is today. But yes, under the school, Roman villa. Okay, so we've just passed a sign for Minerva Way, and there's Hercules Court, and...
oh look, we've got Villa Court.
Well, there we go.
So that's acknowledging, yeah, the villa that we've just seen under the school.
Well, it's nice to got that, and there's a lot of names around here, aren't there? There's consul and legionary and emperor, so they've certainly gone for it in the naming around here.
It's funny this, isn't it? Because we do often get approached by some of our clients asking about sort of inspiration from the archaeological finds to influence the naming, and actually back in the 60s they were definitely doing it here in North Cambridge.
Well, they really were. It's very rare that we actually know the real person's name and such like, but at least they've got the right sense of it all, because in fact here's Villa Court, and you are literally looking over at where the villa is standing over at King's Hedges. So yeah, okay, so well done this. Yeah.
We've just been walking past Orchard Park, and we're here by the underpass under the A14.
Well, here we are at almost at the end of our walk today. This is where Akeman Street becomes Mere Way, which apparently means boundary, and it heads off north to join the A10 off to Ely and across the countryside really. You mentioned Orchard Park. I mean, that development in recent years, a lot of archaeology was done under there. You also have Arbury Camp, which is a known Iron Age fort, which we don't pass on our walk, but it's close to where we are. And in fact, with Orchard Park as well, there was a lot of work done with school children and the local community for archaeology in there. So it's all around us, this hidden heritage, this hidden in plain sight, and so this is hopefully just a little taster of it.
Yeah, hopefully other people will feel inspired to go and discover some new places on their doorsteps and the new history beneath their feet.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, and hopefully it'll inspire another generation of archaeologists. Here we are on Mere Way.
So if you just continue walking up here, you end up sort of going to Land Beach and Water Beach, don't you?
Land Beach, Water Beach, you go past Milton and the East Waste, another Roman villa there probably.
Oh really?
And then the Roman settlements as you get, Land Beach, Cottenham, the Cardyke. There's a whole bunch of more videos that we can do for Hidden in Plain Sight.